Hey guys, this is Rick coming at you with Weed to No Basis, the podcast for all things cannabis business related. Are you an entrepreneur? Have something you wanted to create, something you wanted to bring to life in the cannabis industry? Maybe you've always wanted to partake in one of the biggest industries in modern day history. This is the podcast to listen to. Guys, today we're here on Weed to No Basis, and as you guys know, if you're listening or if you're watching this, it's because you two are on a Weed to No Basis. But today I have a special guest, a good friend of mine, and somebody who's doing some really, really unique and cool things for entrepreneurs in and out of the cannabis space. But he's got a great story about how he got into the space and what he's doing today. His name is Dave Goodall. I just want to say welcome to the show, Dave.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be here, man.
Very cool. And so as you all know, or maybe you don't know, but we record this from Texas, from right in the middle of Texas, San Antonio. And Dave, you're in which part of the country?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Nice. So like that's for people who aren't there, I usually think of it as Raleigh, Durham. Is that the area?
That's it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. The East Coast tech capital. Yep.
East Coast tech. It is. That's that and Asheville. I hear a lot about Asheville, North Carolina. Is that kind of a cool hub to be in?
Yeah. So, I've got an engineering background, spent 23 years in the IT industry. So Cisco Systems is who brought me here in '96. So I've since then gotten married. I'm raising my daughters here, but yeah, Asheville's about 2 hours west. We're a big mountain bike family, so we're over in the Pisgah National Forest outside Asheville, and then we're about an hour and 15 minutes to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is, I think, near where one of the Ironmans was filmed. But that's the Hollywood, East Coast Hollywood, and this is the East Coast Silicon Valley. So it's it's a neat place to live.
Nice. I had not heard of it as I know there's a lot of startups there and there's a tech boom going on, but so East Coast Silicon Valley, that's pretty cool. I write down a lot of stuff, y'all. So when you see me look down, that's.
Yeah, we got a lot of pharmaceutical. We got a lot of high tech companies. We got a big startup network out of the downtown Raleigh area, but we've got major colleges. We got Wake Forest, Duke, NC State, Elon. I mean, it's a huge college hub. So a lot of smart people live around here.
Very cool. And this is not like necessarily the topic, but there's also hemp farmers there's hemp farming going on in North Carolina right now as well.
They already know this, but North Carolina used to be a huge tobacco farming. Winston-Salem's were Winston tobacco cigarettes. And a lot of the farmers, since the hemp licensing has passed, I think in the last year and a half or 2 years, there's been a lot of hemp licenses and a lot of hemp growers as you drive out to the beach. It's a perfect area. They just take over the tobacco farms and they grow hemp out there.
Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about how we met, because there's relevance here. And, one of the things we talk about for the folks in the Green Seed Nation, or you're listening to Weed to No Basis, is we didn't coin the phrase, but you've heard your network is your net worth. And, as you grow that network, you just never know where those connections come from. And I know it's been a wonderful thing for me, but Dave, you and I met as we were both part of a mastermind group, and it's been, maybe 2 years or something like that, or 3 years, somewhere in the last few years, right?
Yeah, I think it's about 3 years now. Yeah, this fall it'll be about 3 years. Time flies.
It does. I was thinking about it, I'm like, has it been 3 years? And it has been. But we met as part of a mastermind group, and it was digital. So we were both, I was in Texas, you are in North Carolina, and we were both part of this group. And we were, simply put, learning to grow and achieve scale and take the next step in our respective businesses and through this group.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like, because a lot of it was Facebook interaction. It was like a coaching program, mastermind, and then you could hear people speak, but there were walls up so you couldn't speak directly to you. And through, I think, the Facebook conversations, I was like, I need to know that guy. And I ended up finding your website through all of it and kind of scheduled a call. And then we were trying to put together sales calls, and I almost felt bad because, we scheduled a call and I got on. I said, "Hey, Rick, I'm sorry. I know you're expecting a sales call here. I'm not buying anything. I just heard you talking in the coaching group, and something resonated and I had to meet you." And I think we ended up talking for about an hour, just identifying the connections. I was like, you got 2 daughters, I have 2 daughters. You're a little bit ahead of me. Obviously, I've got teenage girls, but I think I heard something. I was like, I need to meet this guy. There's, like you said, your network is your net worth. And there's some things that you had achieved that I heard through your stories. And I'm like, yeah, I got to get him in my network.
Yeah, and vice versa. You know, I mean, and this is not any sort of magic or something you have to take or consume. As humans, we just kind of know, like, we gravitate towards people, and there's a good energy and a good vibe, and here we are, like, well, we stayed connected, but here we are 3 years later on a cannabis podcast show talking about our respective industries. But where I want to go next is. So then I was in the early stages of the cannabis space, CBD, part of a company, and we started talking about CBD. And I think, if I recall, your first kind of, or at that point, it's, you know what, you share the CBD story. Like, how did that world open up for you, and how did it impact, or is it impacting your family today?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a long version and a short version, but as I left the IT industry, I got into business coaching and consulting. And my big passion is, like you were talking about, is energy. I love, my oldest daughter is on the autistic spectrum, and I really got in about 5 years ago about the neurosciences and neuroplasticity, and how when we can really tap into our subconscious, we can actually start to reprogram our subconscious in about 15 minutes. With the neurosciences, there's neuroplasticity, and we can start to rewire that. So I had a lot of ideals around reprogramming mindset, and I loved working with athletes. And at the time, I was working with a professional athlete. He was an X Games athlete, and he had discovered brain tumors, and he was using, at the time, illegally, marijuana, because of the pressure of the two brain tumors, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was weird, because I'd always had, all of us in high school, college, maybe we experiment a little bit with weed. It never really did much for me, except for make me paranoid. But then when I really had some conversations with my client and understanding the benefits of helping with him with eliminating headaches and sleeping at night, and he was able to cure some of his issues with his brain tumors. But as I saw you get involved with the CBD, and my daughter being on the autistic spectrum, and at the time I was six-figure business, I was a six-figure earner in the tech industry. I was laid off. I'm trying to do it on my own. No anxiety there, right? As these entrepreneurs. So, I'm reaching out to you, Rick, going, hey man, I'm waking up every morning in a panic. Like, what do I do? I noticed my daughter with her autism. Maybe we experiment with CBD. And I think we did about a 6-month stint with CBD therapies with my daughter, myself, and my wife. And it helped us reduce some inflammation. And it really helped me get through that anxiety stump. And I know with the neuroplasticity, we can rewire our thoughts to eliminate the anxiety, but sometimes we need something to help us to at least calm down. And I flashed back, I broke my ankle when I was in college, and I was anti-pain medications. And the doctor came in and she's like, hey man, I need to give you some pain medications. I'm like, no. And the doctor said something which resonated with me, which kind of gave me a new perspective. She's like, look, if I can't get you to relax and calm down and sleep, then this can't heal. It's like, if you're tensed up. So at that moment, I was like, it kind of made me think of when I was experimenting with the CBD, it was the same thing. If I'm waking up with so much anxiety every day, and I can't use something to help me get through to where I can actually see where it's coming from, and then mentally and physically work through it, then, that's kind of how I started working with CBD. I needed something to help me eliminate that stuff. And it really helped with my daughter. We were able to have conversations. We were able to reduce some of that anxiety. Yeah, that was kind of a long-winded answer.
No,
but
that's okay. I love it. And, some of the things a lot of times what I'll do, Dave, is I just listen. And that's, when I was young, I was told that it was, being quiet and an introvert was a weakness, but it actually has become one of my assets or strengths is listening. So I think is so relevant because, you are an entrepreneur. I just want to make that clear to our audience. But for the folks that are, you're dipping your toes into the cannabis entrepreneurship lake, if you will, we all have a cannabis origin story. And I say cannabis meaning CBD or marijuana. And yours is it's yours. But what you mentioned was, there was a point in most of our lives where we take a little toke, we try some weed, and it's like, okay, I did it. But I don't know that that's really our origin story. I think it's just more of a youth experiment. So your origin story is so impactful because I imagine there's going to be somebody who listens to this who says, you know what, I do have a child with autism, or I do have a child with, or maybe it's them, whatever it is. And your story began with that. And that's how we connected. We connected through a mastermind and Zoom out. We connected even deeper through CBD. And then of course, as entrepreneurs, anxiety, I don't care who you are or what you're doing, man. There's days where it's like the shitstorm is coming and I need some CBD.
I'll add to that. What was weird is my wife's a child of an alcoholic. Both her mom and dad are alcoholics. And at our daughter's very young age, her parents decided we weren't important enough to be in their family. So, but my wife has grown up around alcohol in the sense that it's very forbidden. And she just doesn't like to be around people that are drunk. It just brings up bad memories. And in our household, we have a very open conversation with my girls. My girls are now 13 and 15. We've had conversations how alcoholism runs in the family, and we're very open. And this last New Year's Eve, we went over to our neighbor's house, and everyone was going to be drinking. And my wife decided, she's like, marijuana has not really ever done much for me, but she ended up eating some brownie. And it was one of those where she was in a room with a bunch of people that were drinking, and then usually that stirs her up because she's wondering where's the next beating going to come from. And I don't think she had so much fun that night, where it was just more of the edge was off. She was laughing at the silliest stuff. But we spoke about it to our daughters. We're like, she had a brownie New Year's Eve. Here it is. It's September. Hasn't touched it since. There's no need to go get it. But there's those times where if you want to be in a public setting or in a party type setting, and it doesn't have to be crazy or off the top, right? It's just, how do we find ways to experience other opportunities, whether getting loose, removing anxiety, without finding ways to get addicted or dependent on, right?
Yeah, I love it. And what's even cooler about what you just shared is that it's authentic and it's just totally transparent, because we all have that story. And if we're not open to sharing those stories, then man, we may be missing out on connections and going back to the network and net worth. And that's I didn't know that. And that's something I just learned right now for the first time. But so we met through the mastermind, the CBD experimentation, you with the anxiety. And honestly, that's the reason why I began my CBD journey years ago. Then your children. And then you gravitated or kind of moved into, let's say, coaching, or was that something you did and you engaged in it? Or tell us then how you went into the coaching space and share that with us. Yeah,
so it was kind of weird. I had a birthday last week and I turned 48, and my dad had sent me a card, and I grew up in a household with a lot of, I call it catabolic energy, a lot of fight or flight, a lot of victim mindset, a lot of arguing. And I think my daughter was 2 years old, and he sent me the video in the mail, The Secret, right? And I watched The Secret and the Law of Attraction, and there was something in there, like it just resonated with me. I don't know what it was, but I started on that personal journey because I was at the time probably 12 years in my IT career, doing pretty good. Again, six-figure earner. I was part of a development team where we integrated the first voice over IP analog to digital conversion chip. I was part of the first phone call from New York Stock Exchange over to the London Stock Exchange. I was part of all that development stuff and integration. And so I've been on a really cool journey, and I've got to experience some really cool stuff. But here I was when my dad sent me that. I was not happy. I was not following me. I was not following my purpose. I had a lot of subconscious programming around anger, victimism, victimhood, victim at the effect of I can't because of my circumstances. And I just started this journey on personal development. And I actually went through several coaching courses, coaching certifications. And then when I was finally laid off from my IT job, it was a natural transition, right? I had experienced 22 years of IT industry. I worked with Fortune 100 companies. I was managing departments. I was building teams. I was holding P&Ls. So I was like, I experienced all this stuff. And what I recognized is I really love working with people. And to add in all this, my daughter was diagnosed dyslexic when she was 3. And when it all came together, both my daughters it all clicked. I was dyslexic too. I was that high school kid. I was in summer school every year for English. I think the public school system failed me. But through dyslexia, I always looked at it as a bad thing. But from a dyslexic mindset, we see things that other people don't see. auditorially and visually. So it started to click on me when I was laid off, and it's like, man, I've got a gift. I've got a gift that I get to get out there. I've learned the kind of like the law of attraction. I've learned how subconscious program. I learned how we can reprogram our neural pathways. I learned how the ego prevents us from taking action when we need to. You know, I was gifted with a daughter with autism who's taught me to think outside of myself and really focus in on her and what she needs. And I think the gift of Kennedy being autistic made me really shift. It's like, oh, she's different. She's not incapable, but for her to be successful, what tools do I need to put in her tool bag? What tools do I need to give her to make her successful in whatever she wants to do in her life? And it was kind of like at that moment, I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, man, if I could take that to business owners, no matter what industry, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a business owner, what part of their ego is preventing them from taking action? What tool do they need to take it to the next level, right? And yeah, so 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm doing this on my own, and man, it's taken off, you know. And one of the things I wanted to share with you is, in the beginning, I was leading with money, you know, 6-figure earners, like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make the money? And I was solely focused on money. When I shifted my mindset to, I've got a gift, how can I impact the most people I can this year? Because I kept hearing that from everybody. Express the biggest impact and the money will be there. And I was like, it's all, you know, it's nice for you to say because you've got money, right? And I got bills to pay. But it truly, once I made that shift and kind of focused on how many businesses can I make a positive impact on this year? How many lives and families can I make an impact on this year? It shifted, you know. And when I look back at this year alone, I've probably made an impact on thousands of families. You know, I've had a key inner circle of probably around 15 core companies that I've worked with. A lot of those companies employ anywhere from 10 to 70 people. And if you look at that, just being that voice of reason, that accountability partner once a week for these company and business owners and executives, the impact on the families outside, it's mind-boggling to think about.
Really cool things. Some things really glowed for me is that you mentioned dyslexia, but before that, you also mentioned kind of that victim mindset or mentality, and how it really is, my words, not yours, but it really is something we start and create in our own heads. And you had every reason to not want to go achieve. I mean, forget dyslexic. I mean, because that's reason enough to not go do something. It's like, well, I can't, I'm dyslexic, or, you know, or I can't, my beard isn't cool enough, or I can't. And I've heard somebody use the phrase that you're part of the Yabbit family. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, yeah, but I'm too short. Yeah, but I'm too tall. Yeah, but I'm too young. Yeah, but I'm dyslexic. And what you're really proposing is that our success or failure begins and ends with right here in our heads, here. Yeah. And that's where you are able to best express your gift, is helping people get over those hurdles. And again, my words, not yours. I'm not trying to give bullet points as to what you do, but that's, and I think that's something that's so misunderstood and undervalued, especially with cannabis entrepreneurs, because there's so many people getting into it. And also on the flip side is so many people not, because they're a part of the Yabbit family. Yeah, but I don't have any experience, or yeah, but I'm dyslexic, or yeah, but I was told that this industry was bad. And you're basically saying, fuck that. We have the opportunity to, we all experience as entrepreneurs or soon to be anxieties and can I really do this? And it's really up to us to keep forging ahead. And I just got to say, I love that you said you were gifted with a daughter with autism. That I put that in highlights. That's like, that pulls like right at the heartstrings. I kid you not.
I was going to say, like, my daughter, sometimes she'll pull that. A little plug for myself. I had another coach. She provided me, it's an energy leadership index assessment. It basically shows the 7 languages of our ego and where we go to under stress. And the level 1 and level 2 is that catabolic. Level 1 is victim at the effect of, I can't because of. And a lot of level 2, which is where 95% of all leaders, and this is one of the reasons why I got out of the tech industry, and I'm trying to go back in with what I know. But in order to win, someone has to lose. So both catabolic, right? I can't because, and I'm going to win, you're going to lose. And what I'm trying to do is shift a world conversation is, I'm going to focus on the win for me, but you don't have to lose at the effect of that. Like, I'm going to set the win up for you too. Ultimately, I'm going to win, but I'm going to enable the win for you too. If you choose not to take it, that's your choice, and I can be okay with that. A lot of my clients, when I start talking about that level 3 conversation, like, yeah, but it's so selfish. We've got these dogmatic beliefs that if I think of me first, that it's selfish and wrong. It's un-Christian-like, or whatever word you want to put in there, right? And I always come back to the analogy of, hey, if you're in the airplane and the oxygen masks come out, what do they tell you to do? Put yours on first, right? It's like, I can't help anybody if I'm dead. So a lot of my conversations is really reprogramming that ego mindset of my entrepreneurs, my business owners, my executives. Like, we got to get out of in order for me to win, somebody has to lose. And I'm going to circle back to what you were saying. It's like, exactly, my daughter sometimes will play that victim mindset. Well, Dad, I'm autistic. I'm like, no, we talk about you being autistic because that requires a different set of tools. Nobody's going to care that you're autistic. Once you get to school and you have a temper tantrum meltdown in public and that's inappropriate, nobody's going to care. You're going to be just weird. So until we can teach you how to self-regulate and control that and bring your gifts, because she's very talented in biology and science and genetics, and so she's very talented there. I said, but in order for you to be successful, if that's the career path you want, we've got to learn how to enable you to self-regulate, to not have the blow-ups. Autism is not an excuse. It requires a different set of tools. And I think if we look at all business owners, all of our subconscious program is unique to us. Every word, every thought we speak or think has an emotional consequence. It will enable you to take action or shut down. So, and it's my job, I think, as the coach and the consultant, is to help them identify their emotional language. What is your emotional consequences by the way you're speaking to yourself right now? If we can get at it and rewrite it and reprogram it and put actions into place, you'll build a business that's going to blow up, around the world. And I'll give an example. I had a client on the phone yesterday. We started working together last February, and we took his business from 2 million to 3 million. And we put a lot of efficiencies. We did a lot of mindset. Now I'm working with probably about 30% of the company that we're working together independently. And through all of that, we've got like a $2 million contract at the door. Like, all this stuff's going on. And when we first started coming back in February, he's like, Dave, I think I'd be happy at like a $5 million company. And yesterday, when he saw all the success, we've established leadership, we've removed all the victimhood inside the environment. Yesterday, he came to me, he's like, Dave, I can really see a $20 million company in the next 2 years. And it was like, wow. Like, how many families is that going to make an impact on, right?
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful right there, especially because you, through the process of you, let's just say by imposing Dave Goodall, and I mean that in a very good way, and helping people clear through the clutter or self-regulate, really see things differently. He's not a $20 million company, but he absolutely can see the path that it's, and if we really break that down, the path was always there, right? It was always
right
there.
Oh, it's always there.
Yeah.
Here.
It is.
It's in between the ears that stops you from taking action. It's the what ifs or the yeah buts, right?
Yeah, but yes. And I think that's one of the reasons. Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've remained connected. Not just because like there's just like a kindred bond, but if I'm being really honest, that I asked you to do a presentation in our mastermind group about 6 months ago, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, and the premise of that, it wasn't necessarily just for the folks out there who are entrepreneurs and maybe you're in the industry. It's not always about. In fact, it's rarely about. Let's get a new Instagram tactic, or what's my hashtag group, or, can I find a better supplier or a label manufacturer? Yes, we need those things, but to what we're talking about, Dave, what really matters most is having clarity, having vision, being able to self-regulate and know where the end place is. And so about 6 months ago, I'm like, we need to have somebody like that in our group. Come in and do a presentation, which you did. And you actually walked 2 of our mastermind participants, or 2 of the group members, through a process. And I got to tell you, they both gave feedback afterwards and said like, wow, I was always thinking it was about, saving 2 cents on labels, or, getting a new manufacturer for this, or my new ad run over there. But a lot of times it is the opposite of that. And you came in and did a bang up presentation. Tell us a little bit about that without we don't want to divulge confidentiality stuff because what we talked about in the group, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird concept for me, but when I sit down and we'll map out a business plan, and I've learned that I used to think a business plan was an overall plan for a business, but I take each specific part of a business and I make a plan for that, right? Whatever it is. We're going to launch a new product on market, right? So you've already got an established business, but we want to increase revenue. Great. Increase revenue, do what? Well, we need to do this product. Okay, great. And then we'll map that out. What's interesting is I started this concept with people where I lead with personal life. They're like, hey, I need to increase revenue by $1 million in my business. Great. Let's talk about your personal life. I don't want to talk about personal life. We're going to build the business. Great. How we do anything is how we do everything. Tell me about your personal life. Are you married? Yes. How many times do you spend with your wife during the week? Well, it's really been busy. I've been working late till 11 o'clock. Great. How we do anything is how we do everything. Is your wife important to you? Do you love her? Yeah. So the most important person in your life, the person you love the most, you're neglecting 7 days out of the week. Is that right? They're like, oh, okay. So if and what we did is we started helping people prioritize their life. What's most important to you? Why are you building the business? What is the problem the business solves? We can get to the why. I mean, what is it? Simon Sinek, start with your why, right? But a lot of people hear it and they think it's lip service, but they really don't take the time to go back and think about it. I had a young entrepreneur this week bringing me this business plan, this business opportunity. And he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm like, are you thinking money or are you thinking solution? He's like, well, I can make money here and I can make money there. I'm like, great, throw that aside. What's the solution to the problem you're solving? When you really can make an impact on something bigger than you, the money will be there. And it's hard to hear that. I heard that for so many years. And Rick, I bet you did too. And I'm like, I don't believe it. It's easy for you to say that because you got the money. I'm only 2 years into my business and I'm doing well, but I'm not nowhere near where I want to be. Right. So I still try to lead with that conversation. I got a journal that I keep next to my bed and on my desk that I write about, oh my gosh, I did this today and this is what I want to do tomorrow. But yeah, no, we sat down, we call it the 411. We basically get down and if we map out our year goal and we take that year goal and we chop it into quarterly deliverables, and then we take that quarterly deliverable and we chop it into month deliverables, and then we break that down into what do I have to be doing every week. And a lot of people think, oh, great, another way to do a to-do list. But what it really comes down to is what's the must-do, right? If my goal is to increase revenue by $1 million next year, what's the methods I'm going to do that? And I've got to be able to systematically, visually break that down into bite-sized pieces. One of my favorite quotes is, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time, right? When we think $1 million, that's a huge elephant. But when you can break that down into consumable bite-sized pieces, and you're taking action on a daily basis without any distractions, because, if I don't do this, then this can't be achieved, then you're more likely to take those actions. Very similar to you. I mean, you're in the gym every day. Why? Why do you go to the gym every day? It's like if you slip up one day, it prevents you from having that outlook, that body, that, the ability to move. I know you've had some injuries and stuff. So for you, it's like, if I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to be participating in life, I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to, and your mindset is, if I'm not taking action in the gym every day, then I risk the ability to not walk, to not be able to do things on my own. We're not getting younger. So the more we take care of our bodies, the more abilities we'll have to use them as long as we need to.
Yeah. Interesting. That's so true. And what you just said about the gym is even more true. And, if we applied some of those things to business, it doesn't have to be a matter of being physically fit. It has to be a matter of what you just said. How we do one thing is how we do everything. And there's an element of discipline. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, I just went to the gym, like in the last hour, like right before here, I did. And I thought to myself, I'm pretty regimented and at least 6 days a week. And, come hell or high water. But there are some days where other things I'll let kind of go. And I'm like, okay. And then I thought about the question you asked, why, if that is so important to you, why are you putting that on the back burner? And believe it or not, you've actually given me a little dose of Dave right now. So
yeah,
and I got to write that down.
My notes. I got to grab my notes. One of my coaches and I, we were kicking it back and forth this week, and we were thinking about the motivation mechanisms, right? And one of the questions he asked me is, tell me what the definition of motivation is to you. And I'll ask that to you. What does motivation mean to you?
Well, it's a feeling. So as you said it, I had a visual of the word, and when I see the word in my mind's eye or wherever that is, it compels me to want to take an action to do something.
Right. To take action to move towards something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were kicking this back and forth. What if motivation was just a mechanism that had two gears, right? The first gear naturally attracts to things we find pleasure. Motivation allows us to track to pleasure. We run towards pleasure. And the other mechanism is motivation is a naturally reflex or reject from pain. We're either going to move towards something's pleasure or we're going to reject and reflect from pain. But the question that is never asked, what is your definition of pain? Every word, every action, and feeling has an emotional consequence. Your definition of pain is different than my pain. It's natural human instinct when you're like, hey, if you do this, you can earn an extra $1 million this year. Or if you don't do this, you're going to lose the house and your wife will probably leave you. 95% of the people are going to do number two because it's that I'm trying to reject pain. If I lose the house and my wife leaves, that's going to hurt more. Life's good. It's not that bad. I would love an extra $1 million, but I'm more likely going to take action on where I could reject pain, right? So, yeah, it's really neat on the journey I'm with, the people I surround myself with you. That had I not had my coach Mike, I would not have even been a part of that conversation, right? So I love being continually challenged and learning new stuff and bringing this to my clients and my team members.
Great perspective. That's a great perspective. Motivation, you're right. Generally speaking, I would venture to say, well, at least for me, as I thought about it, it's moving towards something, towards a goal. And you're exactly right. There's a flip side of it is that it's not just moving towards pleasure or achievement, it's avoiding pain or loss or something. And interesting. That's why I love you, man, because you bring in you bring something that I think we all on some level know. You bring it to the surface and you make it you put it right there in front of somebody to say, look, this is really what you're thinking or saying or seeing or doing or not doing or seeing or saying.
We can't get out of our own way. I mean, that's the problem. We're so set. I mean, if you think about it, from the way our conscious subconscious brain works, 95% of our daily actions are done on autopilot. It's done through the operating system that we developed. And most of that operation system was developed up to the age of 13. Our state of state, that's why teenagers are such a-holes, because they've taken that experiences from birth to 13, all those emotional experiences from their eyes. And now at 12, 13, they're like, oh, I got it all figured out. And now they're going to test it, right? But the thing is whatever those habits are, whatever those temper tantrums we are that we developed as humans by the age of 12 and 13, we're still doing it today. We've just found a little button to tweak, So yeah, it's how do we go back and reprogram? You first have to have the awareness. Like, what was it? Tony Robbins, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a new outcome. It's a fly trying to get out the window, but we do it so often because we don't allow ourselves to see another perspective, because we don't allow ourselves to be wrong or make a mistake. One of my favorite quotes, and I use this with my clients all the time, failure is another way we pay for success. But we're in such a society that limits our ability to accept failure. Failure's just tell me this, when you were a baby and you started walking, did you just stand up and start running?
Yeah, no.
No, you fell on your face how many times, right? But you kept failing. And I love that. Fail forward fast. The 3 F's. You just keep failing forward, man. It's like, oh, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. But a lot of us, we have this society where mistakes, and I think it's our school system. Making mistakes is wrong, but we have to fail to figure out what doesn't work so we can take a new path to figure out what does. And that's why I love working with these business owners. When we get their mindset around, dude, we do lead generation or we'll do hiring process. We don't have the answers, but if we don't take action, we're never going to learn. What we try to do is we try to minimize the risk as much as possible. And if it doesn't go as planned, then we mark it up. Don't do this again, right? But I think we live in a society, we don't allow ourselves to do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And, when I first asked you to come on to the show, I was like, this is going to be cool. We're going to talk about this and that. And I'm like, holy shit, this is, I'm getting into my own head right now, getting introspective and thinking about the rest of my day and the week now. And I'm just like, oh geez, man, I think we need to bring you on the show every week. So
maybe we'll start our own mastermind. We'll do a mindset leadership for cannabis businesses, and we'll get a mastermind going and bring in the big guns.
I'm honest. I've always been a big believer that our biggest battle is waged between the ears, and that, you know, business there's a formulaic aspect to it, and it's been done for generations upon generations. You know, business 101, and I believe that what separates the wheat from the chaff, or success from people who are, you know, maybe doing stuff but not where they want to be, is simply it's a tweak. It's something in between our ears that is that's held us back, or not allowed us to achieve our best.
Yeah, it's weird because, you know, like I said, I started this journey by watching the movie The Secret, and I know it can kind of sound woo-hooey, but I've done a lot of research into the neurosciences and reprogramming the subconscious, and how the subconscious is where everything manifests. We have to plant the seed from our logical brain into the subconscious for things to manifest itself, and we have to find a way to kind of create an opportunity, visually see it, and just let it go. And it's so weird. I've got two of my clients now. We've been really working on the subconscious, and the client yesterday that kind of sees his business now as a $20 million business or bigger, he's like, dude, I've just been writing down who I want to hire. I need to hire them by. He goes, and I just kind of visualize what it looks like. I close up the book and I go about my business. He goes, 3 people showed up last week and 2 of them fit that exact description that I wrote down. So it's that power of manifestation, of understanding that every moment is an opportunity, and I can attract and create anything I want to. And I'll share one of my manifestation stories. Was when I was coming out, you know, 6-figure earner in the IT industry. I was part of the whole tech boom. I saw a lot of millionaires, a lot of people make money and lose it on the stock industry and stock markets and all that other stuff. And I was thinking, I had this perspective of who a millionaire was, right? It was this untouchable. It's just this. It's this ghost that's never obtainable. But, you know, I kept doing some visualization. It's like, what would it take for me to be surrounded by millionaires? What would it take to be surrounded by millionaires? I thought it was a special person. And it was just 2 weeks ago, I was doing inventory on all my clients that I'm working with right now. And I would bet you that about 80% of all my clients are $1 million earners. Their company is producing probably 2 million or greater. One of them has a real estate inventory of probably over 70 or $80 million. And every time we talk now, he's like, hey, I need another $400,000. Literally within 4 days later, I'll get a text message with a snapshot of a check. He's like, yep, just found another investor, because he's constantly buying new properties and flipping into property management and doing But when you get around people like that, it's just like anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah. Network. Back to the old network is your net worth. And there's a lot of truth to that. And this has been really good, Dave. I'm going to have to, I'm going to ask this in public, but I'm going to have you back into the group sometime here coming soon. I love that I just said I just got a dose of Dave, because I think that we should all get a dose of Dave every so often. So I love this. And I could likely sit here for a long time and tease out a lot more, because you provoked a lot. You've really provoked and invoked, and there's a lot that's going on in my head right now. I kid you not. So,
what I need that personal assistant that can take my words and put it into a workshop, because I've got so much up in my head, so many life experiences that I just feel it needs to get out of my head and into people to experience that anything's possible. Right now, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that magical person that can pick my brain and get it into a workshop format. But yeah. Thank you. Go. Those are very kind words.
You just spoke it into existence. Now watch, when this episode goes live, you're going to get people reaching out to you. And on that note, you know, as we kind of begin to put a bow on this, and again, there's just so much here, but I do want to let the audience know, where can people find you?
Yeah, I've got a website out there. It's basically about energy leadership. It's davegoodall.com. I do have a link on there that would put 15 minutes on my calendar. If you're an entrepreneur in the cannabis industry, or just an entrepreneur in general, or you're an executive that's managing a P&L or a team of people, we really work on leadership, process and procedures. We look at, you know, aligning your goals, personal and business. There's just a lot of, ultimately, what everybody wants to do. I want to make more money. right? And I want more freedom and time to be back doing with what I really enjoy doing. So yeah, davegoodall.com. Click the link and we can get on a call.
Gotcha. And for those of you who are listening or watching this, there's no need to write this down right this moment, especially if you're driving. We're going to put all those in the show notes down below. If you have any questions, comments, anything at all, guys, by all means, go to Dave's website. You can drop them also down. I'm pointing down below. Some of you are listening to this, but ask questions. Drop them in the show links below. Look for Dave. I will say that the times since I got to know you, Dave, and the more we've spent time together, whether it's on Zoom or on the phone or whatever, I feel the needle move a little bit to the positive, my personal needle move. And so if I feel that way, I'm also imagining folks out there are experiencing the same movement. So hit them up, y'all. This has been great, Dave. I really appreciate it, because we're actually talking on a Saturday. This is the weekend, so I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have a softball tournament this weekend, and I just sent the kids out with mom to go get some groceries. So
nice.
The house quiet. I love it.
Yeah, the grind never ends, right?
Never ends.
Never ends. Dave, I really appreciate you being on with us.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure being here. I love opportunities like this. The more we can get the word out, the better. So thank you.
For sure. For sure. It's been awesome. Remember, folks, if you're listening to this or watching this, whether you're, again, if you're driving, don't stop and don't look down and text, but make sure to leave a note. Share this episode, share the show with folks. Our mission is to help you become a better cannabis entrepreneur and create the cannabis business that you know you should achieve. And if you're listening or watching this, it's because you too are on a weed to know basis. Have an awesome day, rest of the week, y'all. Peace.